All right. Welcome to Hickory Street Podcast. Doing a music review episode here. I'm going no headphones because there's some latency issues with using my computer program that I use for recording audio. I use Logic, and I can't really figure out how to do some of the fixes for the latency issues. So I figured for the music review episodes, it's not really important for me to hear the other person's audio level because there's nobody here except for me. So we'll just do these without headphones now from here on out probably. But anyways, let's get into it. So there are 3 albums that I'm going to talk about. The first album is actually, it's an album you can't find anywhere except for on YouTube and their Bandcamp page. And I was sort of on the fence about whether or not I was going to actually do this band, just because I kind of like using bands that have that are accessible to pretty much everyone. But I know that, you know, by doing a band that only has their music up on Bandcamp and on YouTube, kind of alienates some people, just because there's not a whole lot of people that are going to actually take the time to actually go in and, you know, listen to them. So the band is called Sport, and it's in all capital letters. They're from Lyon, France. I don't know when they started their band. They don't really have an about page really on their Bandcamp. Their first album, which was like a demo, came out in 2011, and I've actually never listened to the demo. And I didn't even realize this, but this band actually put out a new album in 2019. I actually discovered them way back in like 2014. It was like 2014, like right whenever I was getting a new job. Just so happened that I came across this particular album on their YouTube page, and if I'm not mistaken, I don't think that this demo album from 2011 was available on their Bandcamp page in recent past, because I don't remember ever seeing it really. So I have their Bandcamp page up now, so I see it now. But anyways, so the album I want to talk about is an album called Colors. Now, this band, on their Bandcamp, they classify themselves as an indie punk band, but really, whenever you listen to their music, it's pretty unavoidable. They're definitely, I would say, like an emo math rock band for sure. They have a lot of like lightly distorted guitar tones, very complicated time signatures, and well, not really complicated, but like very like driving emo time signatures, and they have a lot of like shouty vocals. There's not maybe a band that I could kind of compare them to a little bit would be like Desperdicitos. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they're kind of they've got a lot of shouty kind of tappy stuff on guitar. A lot of it isn't like tappy per se, but they use a lot of similar tuning styles in math rock, I'm pretty sure, just based off of what I'm hearing. And I think that there's at least a little bit of tapping throughout some of their music. But their album Colors just kind of blew me away with... Their songs are fairly short. Like, each song is probably like 2.5, maybe 3 minutes at most. And this album in particular, I think, is only like 28 minutes or like 27 minutes or something. It's a pretty short album, but they've got a very, very, very unique sound. And their shouty vocals reminds me a lot of this band called Hot Water Music, which is an old emo band from like mid to late 90s. And they've got a few, like, their earlier albums are really good, but this band, Hot Water Music, has a interesting dynamic because they have two lead singers that they got one lead singer, and then they have like a second singer that plays like will do a verse every now and then, but their voices are like almost indistinguishable. And this band has a very similar dynamic. They've got a lot of like screaming parts, and both of the singers in the band have almost a discernible, like indiscernible sound to them. So I didn't even realize that this band had multiple vocalists until, I want to say, I watched a live video of theirs. But let's get into this album Colors, because it's absolutely amazing, and all of the song titles are just places with years attached to them. So it's kind of interesting. I'm wondering if maybe this album was kind of put together with a specific like concept in mind, because the years span so far apart from each other, but they all seem to be in like the 1900s and into the 2000s. So maybe it's something related to like this guy's ancestry, like maybe grandparents or other family members or something like that. But just for a few examples, the first title on the first track on the song is Barcelona 1992. That's the name of the song. And then they have Paris 1900, Paris 1924. Those are tracks 7 and 8. So and then St. Louis 1904, and Montreal is 1976 is the last song on the album. So I don't know what any of these things mean, but I've listened to the lyrics, and it's kind of hard to tell what this guy is like singing about just from pure listening. I haven't gone through and read the lyrics, but he's definitely storytelling. So there's gotta be some kind of like very unique individual concept to the lead lyricist himself or something. So but this album Colors was released in July 2012, and it's their first album. It was recorded and mixed by Nicholas Esquire at Magic Studio, and it's mastered by Ryan Schwab at the Maniac Mansion, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. So it was recorded in one area, and it was mastered by this guy in Pennsylvania. So kind of cool. The album itself is like very I don't know how else to really describe it other than like emotionally provoking. It I really felt both energized and somewhat somber listening to this album. Very cool stuff from Lyon, France, and I know I'm throwing a lot of like international bands at you guys. I listen to a lot of international music. This is the kind of listener I am. I tend to like seek these things out, and this was one that I discovered in 2015, a long time ago, that I highly recommend. I've listened to all of their albums except for this one released in 2019, because I never even noticed that they released it. So I don't know exactly when they put it up on their Bandcamp page, but I never saw it. And I also haven't listened to this band in a long time, but I've been listening to them recently a lot. So they also have a live album from 2015, kind of cool. So definitely check them out. Now, the second band is called Ashwaze and the Ghosts. It's plural, ghosts. And they are an Australian band formed in 2017, and their debut album, which is the album that I came across, I want to say like last week, is called Paid Salvation, and it was released in September of 2020. And this album is incredible from front to back. It's just absolutely amazing. I would say, like, sonically, if I were to compare it to some things, I would say that they sound like a lot of mid to late 70s punk bands, like the Ramones, and not really Dead Kennedys. They got like kind of a poppier edge, but yeah, they have a few songs that are a little bit more aggressive, but they kind of switch like sounds from song to song sometimes. Like they've got a song that sounds fairly new wave sound, and then they've got a few songs that remind me a lot of Devo, and I think the Devo comparison is probably the one that continues throughout the album, mainly because the lead singer's voice and the effects that are put on his voice a little bit it just reminds me a lot of Devo's stuff. It's very animated, very controlled, but also chaotic. And I would say my favorite song on this album is Connect to Consume. And that song is pretty straightforward about what it's about, but it's just quite literally about the weird social contract that everybody's just created with social media and following people that we don't necessarily know or anything online. And so very interesting album, Paid Salvation by Ashwaze and the Ghosts from Australia. And another thing about this band probably worth mentioning is that another like a good comparison is the Sex Pistols. And I know that sounds like pretty cliche to say of a punk band, but it's true. They've got a lot of like raw edge to them in kind of a throwback way, and that's another, and the guy's voice kind of sounds like the lead singer of the Sex Pistols. I can't think of his name right now. Johnny Rotten. Yeah. It kind of sounds like that guy. But anyways, good album by them. And this last band I want to talk about is also an Australian band, and I didn't know that until I just read it just now. But they are from Australia. They're from Melbourne, Australia. There's a lot of good bands from Melbourne. And they were formed in 2013. And their album, French Press, was released, let's see here. It's actually an EP, and I kind of shy away from doing reviews on EPs just because I don't really like listening to EPs, just because I feel like if the band just took a little bit more time and added a few songs to it, it could have been an album. So, but the EP is very, very cool. It's like I said, it's called The French Press, and it was released in 2016, and it charted. Actually, I just found this. It was charted at number 39 for I don't know which chart they were referring to, but and it looks like they've been nominated for a few AIR awards. I'm guessing this is like Australian radio or something, or like some kind of Australian thing. But their album, The French Press, is very obscure front to back, and in a good way. Like I can't really put my finger on what they might be influenced by. Maybe a little bit of David Bowie, maybe, but like even that's kind of a stretch. I would say that's a very big stretch, but they really kind of hit something fairly unique, and I've listened to it several times. I think I discovered this band like at least 6 to 8 months ago or something like that. But yeah, I want to say that this EP is pretty solid front to back, but French Press is the best song on the EP for sure, and it's the one that the EP is named after, so there's that. But yep, so those are my music reviews this week. I'm not sure when I'll do another music review. I'm supposed to have another podcast next Sunday. I was supposed to have one this Sunday with some of my old friends, but there was some scheduling issues, so I'm not worried about it. We'll schedule something else down the line with someone. But thanks for tuning in, and yeah, I like doing this stuff. It gives me like a reason to show people new music, because I feel like a lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of undiscovered music out there, just because I feel like the general public just kind of digest whatever is thrown at them. And so as a musician, I am constantly seeking out new bands and new music, and come across a lot of stuff that most people haven't been, exposed to. And I think everybody, to some degree, kind of exposes themselves to, new music kind of inadvertently, or like not even really trying. But being that this is like my passion, this is something that I seek out, and I kind of get upset whenever I hear people talk about like the state of music and like, oh, there's just no good music anymore. Everything's bland. Tyson! Hey, stop. But anyways, I kind of get like upset whenever people say, oh, there's no good music out there anymore, everything's bland, blah 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 blah, because it's out there. It really is. This is, there's this concept called the Pareto distribution that I discovered by watching a lecture of Jordan Peterson, and then basically the Pareto distribution is that the top 5 or 10% of most successful people in any particular facet of society are holds 90 to 98% of the rewards from that particular facet of society. So it's like in the music industry, what it comes down to is like the top 5-10% of musicians hold virtually 100% of the success and reap 100% of the rewards. And same thing kind of happens whenever it comes to things like economics. So the top 5-10% of successful business owners occupy virtually 100% of the money, and virtually 100% of the access to more business opportunities and such like that. So it's an interesting concept. And so whenever I hear people say, oh, there's just no good music out there anymore and all this other stuff, it's sort of frustrating, because I've been able to see on the other side that there is a lot of good stuff out there. It's just not nearly as sought out as the most popular stuff you hear on the radio or that's thrown at you. So, but so I am streaming this live on Instagram. Again, Gabe checked in, and someone I don't really. Oh, Cosmic Chaos. I know her. Hey, she checked in for a second. But anyways, yeah, I mean, just kind of give a little bit about me. I am a musician, and I play guitar and sing in a band called Possible that I started whenever I was 18. So it was 2012. I'm sorry, no, it was 2013 whenever I started it. I played in a punk band. I played bass and sang in a band called the Delzells for, I think we're a band for 3 years. With my best friend Justin, and hopefully I can get him on a podcast soon. And my friend Ralph, and our drummer John. And then I'm currently playing drums in a band called Spacehead, and I do a little bit of backup vocals in that band. But Spacehead, we released one EP that's out on Spotify and Bandcamp and all that, and we haven't really had a whole lot of time to practice and get into making new stuff, unfortunately. But that seems to be changing soon. I think we're going to start practicing again, which is good because it's been so long since I played drums. But we should have some more recording opportunities in the future. So it might be next year before anything is like completely finished. But we're kind of taking our times with it. We enjoy, just hanging out with each other and such. So there's a little bit about me, my music history, I guess. I went, whoops, I'm looking at my computer, so I did the opposite, but I went to UNT, graduated with a degree in history with a minor in management. I'm currently working for a company building displays for trade shows and sales center displays. So whenever companies go and try to market at like seminars and other Tyson and other areas and such, I build their displays. So, and I'm hoping that this job will lead me to potentially get into something like historical restoration, which is what I want to do. I want to get into historical restoration. And if you don't know what historical restoration is, basically the U.S. government allocates a certain amount of money per year to, like, specifically for restoring historical buildings and monuments across the country. So these are like a lot of the historical, sites in like Philadelphia and Boston and, Virginia and North Carolina, South Carolina, like Civil War era stuff. There's some other interesting like things that historical restoration people do. But they primarily look at like blueprints and old building techniques on these buildings and learn how to replicate the old. They learn how to replicate the old construction techniques so that the building looks as it did whenever it was first built. So that's really what I want to get into, and I like doing stuff with my hands. So that's my goal. It's a fairly competitive field, though, and I might have to go back to school and get my master's degree. I'm not entirely sure yet, but as of now, being how young I am, I'm not like in a hurry to go back to school anytime soon. So, but anyways, thanks for checking out this latest music review podcast. Go.